leader on
Snowman
this
here.
team despite.
Very excited to be a part of the Full Press Radio Network with my show, Snowman in the Morning, that you can hear live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern and catch the replay here on Full Press Coverage Radio at
And welcome
3
back,
p.m.
everybody, to an all-new
Eastern.
episode of Kicking It with Keeler, episode 6 of Kicking It with Keeler. Thanks for kicking it with me, Ricky Keeler, here on Thursday night. For those of you listening live, I appreciate that as well, here on Full Press Radio. Follow me on Twitter, at Rickinator555. Follow us on Twitter, at Full Press Radio, at FP Coverage. We got a great show for you. We're going to talk a little MLB hot stove in a little bit. We'll also talk a little college football. The playoff matchups are set. The bowl matchups are set. And we have Donovan James from Full Press Coverage College Radio coming on in a little bit to talk about the playoff. We'll talk about bowls. We'll talk about Heisman, championship week. We had the conference championships this past week. No real surprises, but still some great takeaways from those games. And we'll get into, of course, the college football awards, which Donovan is at tonight. And he'll give us what he's covering down there, and you can follow him on Twitter, and we'll get into that later on for his coverage of the award show. But let's start with MLB, and of course we'll also have NFL Week 15 Word Association coming up, and we'll talk a little Knicks with the David Fizdale firing this past week. And I want to start with the hot stove. I'm a big baseball fan. You can follow my coverage of the Yankees minor league system over at Pinstripe Prospects. So this is a big week for the New York Yankees. If you missed the winter meetings down in San Diego, it's been a lot more active than last year's winter meetings. Scott Boras has signed over $800 million in contracts for his clients. The top 3 free agents are now off the board. And it's a good thing for the sport. Because at least it gets baseball out there. It's awesome to see these guys sign to get the contracts they deserve. I'm going to get into those top 3 contracts right now. Let's start with the Nationals, who were the first move. They signed Steven Strasburg on Monday to a 7-year, $245 million contract. Strasburg opted out of 4 years and $100 million to get this new deal, and he deserves every penny for it. I've talked about it on the show. I think we talked about it in the first episode. How much, from my coverage of the Nationals over District on Deck, how much Strasburg has grown as a pitcher. He's a guy that now takes the ball. He dominates. He wants the ball in every situation. He's learned from Max Scherzer, which I think has helped him. I think is a comfort level also staying in D.C. because he's still with Scherzer. He is going to finish his career in a Curly W uniform. He is going to be the first national, I think, if his career stays on this track, be the first guy to play his full career in Washington and make the Hall of Fame. He is that good. He's battled injuries in his career, yes. He's learned to manage those injuries. I think that's a big part in his development as well. The Nationals had to get this deal done either with him or Anthony Rendon. Obviously, they didn't get the deal done with Rendon, but like their owner, Mark Lerner, said, they could not keep both. It was really hard for them to do that. And I think in the grand scheme of things, I can see why they stuck with Strasburg. They want to keep that big 3 in the rotation of Scherzer, Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin. The Nats still have a little bit of work to do with their bullpen, but Strasburg at least gives them at least a comfort level with their rotation that you have to like. And it's a guy that the Nationals have treated him well. They shut him down. They had his long-term career in mind. He's never forgotten that. I don't think anybody ever thought Strasburg was leaving. So I think in the end the Nationals made the right decision, at least with Strasburg. And while I don't really get how they can't afford both. They could if they wanted to. I still think Strasburg might have been... I would rather have kept Rendon, but I can see why they made the move to keep Strasburg. Let's go to the big news from Tuesday night. Well, actually, it was midnight on Wednesday. Garrett Cole of the Yankees, 9 years, $324 million. An opt-out after year 5. Look, there is no amount of money where you can question the Yankees on this. It's a big contract, no doubt. It's the highest ever in terms of total guarantees and average annual value. It beat Strasburg's deal. But the Yankees had to do this. They need an ace in that rotation. Luis Severino's not an ace yet. Masahiro Tanaka is a reliable pitcher, but not an ace. They needed that bona fide, top-of-the-line starting pitcher to take the ease off the bullpen during the regular season so they're more fresh in the postseason. They need Garrett Cole to go deep in games in the postseason so they're not using the same bullpen arms every game. They're not having a bullpen day. They had to make this move. Garrett Cole has been a different pitcher since he joined the Astros 2 years ago. He's embraced analytics. The Yankees have a pitching coach in Matt Blake that's embraced analytics. So I'm sure Garrett Cole related there. He's going to help the young pitchers out. Andy Pettitte, of course, helped with meeting him during that Garrett Cole meeting with Scott Boras, where Pettitte told him how great it is to pitch in New York. Garrett Cole loved Andy Pettitte as a kid. It makes too much sense. The Yankees had to be the favorite. They drafted him and wanted to sign him, but couldn't do it. They wanted to trade from Pittsburgh, couldn't do it. And it's good to see. Look, Hal Steinbrenner said, "I'll go to any length to get this deal done," and even he was the one that put the 9th year on the contract. So you can't blame the Yankees. We talked about in the past few years of the Yankees being cheap. They're not cheap. They waited for the right player. And to them, Garrett Cole is the absolute right player. They're the prohibitive favorite in the American League. The Astros are second, but really that's a faraway second because the American League is not good. I mean, there's really 3 or 4 good teams in the American League, and that's it. So the Yankees did not make this Garrett Cole move for the regular season. They made it for the postseason. And to have now that guy in your arsenal in the rotation, it's tough for me to see anybody beating the Yankees in the American League. It puts less pressure on Severino. The Yankees, of course, still have Jordan Montgomery. They still have Davey Garcia, potentially, their top prospect. That could come up later in the year and help out the rotation. We'll see if they trade J.A. Happ. I think they will eventually. Kind of clear up some of that money for their payroll. They re-signed Brett Gardner on Thursday, which was a good move. They had to do it with Aaron Hicks' injury. Gardner got a little bit more money than you might have thought, but in the end, Brett Gardner is a valuable member to the Yankees for his leadership. He had a good year offensively. So having him on a 1-year deal isn't the worst thing in the world. They still could use a backup catcher if it's not Kyle Higashioka. I would not be surprised if they brought in Martin Maldonado, Garrett Cole's catcher for Houston. Kind of add another comfort level into the mix. But the Yankees had to make this Cole deal. They outbid the Angels. They outbid the Dodgers as well. To get this deal done, they had to do it, and they got it done. So props to Garrett Cole and the Yankees on that. And finally, Anthony Rendon, 7 years, $245 million to the Angels. The Angels could still use pitching, but they need another big-ticket acquisition to help Mike Trout in the lineup with Albert Pujols aging and on the decline. Shohei Ohtani's battled injury. And I think Rendon fits in Los Angeles. I think he does because, yes, he's in a big market in L.A., but he's with the second team in L.A., and he's also not the focal point. One thing you notice, I covered Anthony Rendon, of course, at District on Deck, blogging about the Nationals for a couple of years. And one of the things you notice about Rendon, he doesn't like the spotlight. He doesn't shy away from it, but he likes to keep to himself. He doesn't say much. He'll have to say maybe a little more with the Angels, but he can kind of go under the radar with Mike Trout there. I think that could have came to mind a little bit. He's got a chance to get more recognition in the American League. He didn't really make any starting third base jobs in the All-Star game because of what Nolan Arenado's done, Chris Bryant, list goes on and on. There's not really many great third basemen in the American League. Maybe Matt Chapman, Rafael Devers with the Red Sox. Besides that, you don't really have any big ticket third base guys in the American League. Maybe Bregman. So you throw Bregman there if he's not at shortstop and he's at third. So Bregman, Chapman, Devers. But Rendon's right up there. So he's got a shot to make more All-Star teams in the American League. He gets the big ticket contract he deserved. The Nationals were never going to get that done because of the deferrals. So that's where I think it kind of cost them there. But Anthony Rendon goes to the Angels, and I think it makes sense there. But they could still use pitching. Madison Bumgarner's still available. Hyun-Jin Ryu's still available. So much on the table for the Angels, but they have to improve that pitching staff if they want to contend either for the AL West or even a wild card spot in 2020. But the hot stove's not done. There's still plenty of moves out there. Plenty of trades could still be made between Chris Bryant, Francisco Lindor. Bob Nightingale of USA Today was talking the Dodgers are seriously in on Francisco Lindor. The Dodgers need a big splash. They have top prospects to trade. That would be interesting. I don't think Mookie Betts is going anywhere. But I think another interesting trade possibly is Josh Hader. Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic tweeted on Thursday that the Yankees are the most active pursuer for Josh Hader. The Yankees have prospects to trade. They're not a top farm system, but if Milwaukee's seriously thinking of moving on from Hader and the Yankees can make that deal, it makes their bullpen that much better. Hader basically replaces Dellin Betances. It allows Chad Green to stay on that opener swingman kind of role. We saw the Dodgers sign Blake Treinen to a one-year deal. We could maybe see the Dodgers sign Dellin Betances to improve their bullpen. So the Yankees, I think, want to keep their bullpen as strength as well. They can't really do many more free agent moves because of their payroll. and being in that third level, the competitive balance tax, where they, of course, have the your draft pick drops and all the things that come with it. But Hader, I think, to the Yankees, they could also limit his role too. They don't have to pitch him every day. The Brewers were using him a ton. You wouldn't have to use him a lot with the Yankees because you have Ottavino, you have Britton, you have Chapman. That would just make the bullpen that much more dominant. The Yankees bullpen is dominant as it is. But so much still to get done with the hot stove, and we'll be right here on Kicking It with Keeler covering all of it. But it was a great winter meetings in San Diego, and at least the baseball offseason is buzzing, and that's great for the sport. So let's get into college football right now. LSU, Oklahoma in the Peach Bowl, Ohio State, Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl are your two semifinal games. I think the committee got it right with LSU over Ohio State. Number one, you can make a case for Ohio State, but I think in the end, the committee made the right decision. So to talk a little playoffs, to talk some bowl games. I love bowl games. I do Bowl Mania every year. I see how many games I can get right. Usually I'm okay at it. I'm not great at it. Talk a little Heisman. My special guest for this week was Donovan James from Full Press Coverage College Radio, which you can hear every week here on Full Press Coverage. Donovan is at the College Football Awards Show, which is taking place tonight, which you're listening live on a Thursday. We interviewed him on Wednesday. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Donovan James about the College Football Playoff, bowl games, and much more. And joining me now on Kicking It with Keeler to discuss all things college football playoff, bowls, championship week, the whole 9 yards, is the host of Full Press Coverage College Radio. Please welcome Donovan James to the show. Donovan, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself, John? Thanks for having me on, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Happy to have you. I'm doing pretty good. So before we get into the playoff and the selections and all those things, what was your biggest takeaway from championship week?
My biggest takeaway from championship week, I probably have two to be on my yeah, the first one was just the job that Michael Go and his assistant did. I think those coaches, we knew they were leaving before. Obviously, they go to Florida State and then took into Ole Miss from FAU, and those two still put in the work, especially Memphis beating Cincinnati 2 times in a row back to that week, and then FAU with the blowout win there. So I thought that was very important that their team still fought strong, even though some of the circumstances of their coaches everything. Second takeaway is just, how good stuff is, like, man. How good LSU is and how they dominated Georgia. They do have some injuries there still. It wouldn't matter. Joe Burrow is just sensational, man. Every game he plays has been unstoppable. Really put his stamp on the Heisman Trophy. There's any doubt. Joe Burrow is going to do Heisman on Saturday. So, yeah, those are my two biggest takeaways from that.
The LSU, like you said, it didn't matter if Georgia was missing one of the wide receivers and one of them was suspended for the first half. LSU was dominant from start to finish in that game. Memphis, like you said, Mike Norvell going to Florida State, somehow find a way to beat the team back-to-back weeks. And I think that's what makes Ohio State's win over Wisconsin a little bit more impressive. We look at it from the outskirts and we see, Wisconsin got out to a 14-0 lead, and Ohio State had dominated them a couple months prior. But for Justin Fields and the Buckeyes to have to rally to win a game shows something going to the playoffs. At least they have confidence that if they get down, they can come back to win when they were basically front-running the entire season.
No, that's true as well. I thought that was big. That's another takeaway you can definitely have from the championship week was that they had been tested, really. You look at the teams they played good teams, but the Penn State game was a little close, I guess, at some points. There was never a doubt. The game with Michigan, same thing. It was a blowout. It was never a doubt, shit Patterson, Michigan definitely has still on the good team. Yeah, but then at that score, I was flipping over to blowout, you can championship, and I was like, hey, man, this is really close. Gil and Jonathan Taylor and Jack Sawyer in the offense, they did a good job. And Paul Chris did a good coaching job as always. But, yeah, Ohio State having to bounce back and kind of fight, especially Justin Fields moving down the stretch was big. I think going to the playoffs, that was huge for a pretty young team still.
So taking a look at the final rankings by the playoff selection committee, LSU gets number 1, Ohio State number 2, Clemson number 3, Oklahoma number 4. The big debate was LSU, Ohio State 1-2. I think you can make a case for either one. I was kind of back and forth myself. I think the committee got it right with LSU just because of their quality wins in the SEC. I think they got credit for winning at Texas, even though Texas is an average team, to be polite. Do you think the committee got it right, or would you have put Ohio State number one?
I think the committee got it right. Just going off of the resume and the eye test and everything, and then, I mean, obviously playing Bama and like Texas, yeah, they ended up not being as good, but they kind of when they happened, I think more so than like at the end of the season, but still, I would put LSU at one, obviously two, and I think they had it right. Oklahoma did four, and Clemson three. I mean, I have no problem with it at all. But either way, I mean, honestly, I don't get too confident, right? As long as the top 4 teams are in, that explains to me it's fine. Where they're ranked, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're gonna have to. You gotta fight. You gotta win 2 games. That's all. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah, I think they got it right. So the committee is fine.
I mean,
happy.
in a normal year, that's true. Whether you're 1 or you're 2, you're okay with it. But I can see if you're an Ohio State fan, you're upset that you're the 2 and you have to play the reigning national champs who've won 20-plus games in a row and have a chip on their shoulder. This is probably the 1 year that maybe you're upset about being number 2.
That is true. And they have not had success, especially since obviously they got blown out last time. That was a long time ago. So yeah, I mean, I get that. I do get that, but hey, Oklahoma, I know they struggle, but they're still dangerous. I mean, we've seen them. This is the 3rd year in a row, and Ricky Keeler's offense is getting hurt. I mean, that guy is just so passionate and driven to go back and win those championships. I mean, that's a dangerous team in Big 12 country, man, out in the West, Oklahoma. So I know everyone's kind of saying 2-team race, but Oklahoma's dangerous. They're a scary team to me.
That's what I want to get into, looking into that first semifinal, LSU-Oklahoma in Atlanta on December 28th, 4 Eastern on ESPN. LSU, we all know how dominant they are. We all know how great Joe Burrow is. Their defense got a little bit better at the end of the season. I think the X factor in this game, and I think the X factor in the whole playoffs, Donovan, is Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's a big game player. He somehow finds a way to make plays late, even though I think this year he's kind of forced some things and maybe made more turnovers than he would like. But, I mean, if Oklahoma has any other quarterback but Jalen Hurts, they lose the Big 12 championship. So I think he could make a big difference, and he knows LSU better than practically any other quarterback in the country does.
Yeah, this is his, like, 4th time or 5th time since that playing him. So, yeah, he has a lot of experience. CeeDee Lamb's healthy, and you see with a healthy CeeDee Lamb playing their different teams also. But it didn't happen in the first day of the game. They struggled, they still won, but their offense was a lot better than Big 12 championship to me at times. They really struggled, but CeeDee Lamb, MVP of that game, he's the X factor for me, outside of Jalen, of course. And, yeah, I mean, Kenny Bush is running the ball well. The defense, they were struggling, but I think it's the best defense they've had over the last 3 years of the college football team. That will make a difference. I also think they have to go on Baker Tyler, that, passing of Baker and the running style of Tyler Murray. But Jalen's a little bit in between, both of those guys. So, and I think their offense is still good. Not as loaded, but they're still dangerous. And like I said, Lincoln Riley, still young coach, learning from his mistakes in the past. And it's still really good team, man. Especially up front, Creed Humphrey. I think he's All-American. Up front, they've got some good players, especially with positions, of course.
Yeah, the one concern I think I have for Oklahoma in this game is their defense, and I agree with you. Alex Grinch has done a good job with defense, but if you're going to give up big plays to Baylor's third-string quarterback, LSU's got the better quarterback. They've got better wide receivers on the outside. LSU could pick them apart if Baylor's third-string guy can throw 80-yard touchdown passes in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's the thing that scares me. Oklahoma's dangerous, but it's kind of, either way, like I said, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, they're going to give up, points. They're going to give up big plays to any of these quarterbacks. I look at obviously what they've done in the past 2 years. I know they made the playoffs, but they have given up big plays before that. Whether it's from Red Bull, the last year, the two, so it's going to be tough for them, for sure. But yeah, I mean, they got a month to figure it out. They're thinking coordinators and things like that. I don't even know how you stop this offense, man. I mean, they can run too. They just don't have to really. They can run as well and chip away at each possible like they used to do back in just a couple of years ago. And I'm sure Coach Earl would be different for him. He's a ground-and-pound defensive coach and just airing it out and stuff. But hey, you got Joe Burrow for possibly 2 more games, so go ahead and throw it to Jamar Chase and I was outside.
looking at the second playoff semifinal of the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, Ohio State and Clemson. Of course, this is the one everybody's looking forward to. You mentioned Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. When I look at this game, obviously the defense is standing out. You got impact top 10 draft picks from Chase Young on Ohio State, Isaiah Simmons and Clemson. To me, it comes down, I think, who runs the football better? Is it J.K. Donovan or is it Travis Etienne? Whoever runs it, I think, sets up Fields or Lawrence to make big plays downfield. But to me, this is a coin flip. I honestly, I know we're 3 weeks away from it, so there's time. I don't know who's going to win this football game. I can make a case for both these teams.
Yeah, this one's going to be marquee. Like, it's the 8 o'clock game on the prime time. And if you're an NFL scout or, I mean, just football fan in general, you got to watch this game. This game is just really epic. You got really QB1 and QB2 for the 2021 class as well, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. And then obviously Chase Young, who I think is the best player in college football. It's going to be, I don't know, an attraction. I think there are a lot of points in this score. They have good defensive players, and it will take some big defensive play, whether it's a sack or fumble, interception, or whatever. By the end, on the other side of the interception, sack, but it'll come down to Trevor Lawrence and Fields and Donovan and ETN with that. The receivers and TK again, Justin Ross. There's just so much talent. I can't wait to watch. This is probably one of the most hyped games I think in recent memory. For a semifinal, should go to the national championship game. Other than Fields like a semifinal game, like you're saying, Oklahoma is definitely underdog. I would say, I don't know what the spread is, but I would say about 10 points to me. This one is like, Ohio State can be favorite, but it's like maybe 1 or 2 points. We can go either way. But I do have Ohio State as a favorite to win actually the national championship. I hope I'm not giving too much away, but I mean, I think they had the upper hand a little bit just because they did everything so well, So.
Yeah, I think Ohio State to me gets the slight edge too, just because I think part of you wants to see how Clemson handles playing their best opponent of the year, because nobody compares to Ohio State for what Clemson's played this season. Yes, they've blown out everybody possible, but Ohio State's a step up from Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia Tech, and all these ACC schools, even Texas A&M, their best non-conference opponent. And Justin Fields, I think down the stretch, has just made more big plays. Yes, Dobbins is getting the job done on the ground, but Fields, you're seeing, especially in the Michigan game, he is not afraid to get the ball downfield, even though against Wisconsin. And B.J. Hill's been big, but it's one of their other receivers has been making plays as well. I forget his name off the top of my head. I can get it in a little bit. Their second wide receiver is just finding ways to make plays. And I think if Fields can connect on those downfield balls, it's going to be tough for Clemson.
Yeah, it will be. I can't wait to see, the coaching matchup. We got a veteran, a guy that's been coaching for a very, very long time, winning championships. I was thinking Ryan Davis still new-ish. I know he coached last year, and he was doing an amazing job. I don't think he's off the game yet. But it's just still different. Just talking to some players, like just preparing for this month, and having the long break in is different. But I think it'll be fine. I just want to see the coaching matchup because that's all it takes, man. It's just this is so even that it's going to come down to 1 or 2 things. It could be a coaching decision or a change or just something like that. So I'm excited to see that. I agree with you, too. Downfield, impressive. The shots he takes and when he takes them. That's the most important thing. Very good decision maker in my eyes. And so is Trevor, always on the other side, too. He's been playing really good down the stretch. So I know he started out rocky, but he's going to do, I think, 1 or 2 interceptions. I've had like 7 games, something like that. So, 21 plus 2 picks. So, I mean, yeah, like for Justin Ross, against Travis Etienne, and got weapons all over. So.
In any other year, Fields would probably win the Heisman, but that's how great Joe Burrow has been. If KJ Hill and Chris Olave make plays, it's going to be, I think, a little bit tough for Clemson. Let's get into some of the other bowl games. We have the New Year's Six Bowls, which I think on the outskirts, Donovan, they're not that exciting this past year. So you got Georgia and Baylor in the Sugar Bowl, Florida, Virginia in the Orange Bowl, Oregon, Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl, Memphis and Penn State in the Cotton Bowl. It's not the greatest of matchups, but is there one that stands out to you out of those 4 that you're looking forward to watching?
Yeah, I mean, the Rose Bowl. Like, I'm a West Coast kid, like, living in the South right now, but, like, I'm San Diego. I'm a USC guy. And, I mean, local stadiums, everything. You just see the Pac-12 fan. Those beautiful stadium in college football, just for the Rose Bowl and scenic backdrop and everything. So, and you got Oregon, Wisconsin. I think those are the two best teams that didn't make the playoffs, too. So, I really like Wisconsin's team. I know they've lost 3 games this year, but I really do like the team. I think not many people can go to their toes for like Ohio State like that, like they did last week in Oregon. I mean, take out the Arizona State game, that's the playoff team. I would love to see them. Oklahoma deserves it for sure, but excuse me, if they hadn't lost that game a few weeks together, would have been in it. And they have Justin Herbert, who I love, coming out in the draft. CJ Verdell and their left tackle has improved so much. So I like Oregon's team. They're losing their offensive coordinator, Mark Chiarello, to UNLV this afternoon this morning. So that'll be pretty interesting to see. I think he's still coaching Philadelphia, but so he'll be on double duty. And then, Jonathan Taylor, it's his last game. I'm sure he's going to enter the draft. And, he's had a historic career. I think he's 6th all-time in rushing yards. And kind of underrated. I mean, kind of hard thing to get into, but the kid's never been in New York for the Heisman. He's 6th all-time in rushing yards in 3 years. So I would have loved to see him be in New York, actually, but I'm sure he'll be on the ballot again. But yeah, that's definitely the marquee game for the New York State. The Baylor, Georgia, maybe. Depends on who they excited. Last year they didn't take it too seriously. I don't think. Mississippi State's interesting. Just see Brady White and Mike Novell for the last time together playing the Big Ten. I think they're kind of actually rooting for music. Just feel like the underdogs is multiple to kind of get that one with the Fiesta Bowl. Is that what you said? Or no, not Fiesta Bowl, the Chicago Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So, so to add non-power school, always kind of what the boys do, Memphis, whatever, Cincinnati, they had a shot. So that would be an interesting game too. They're all pretty good, but like you said, it's not as good, especially with these kids sitting out. You don't know who's going to sit out and anything like that. So we'll see. But I'll still watch every game.
Yeah, that's what makes these games so tough to pick, like you said, when you don't know who's going to be and playing for who's coaching for who. Is this Matt Rule's last game as the Baylor head coach? If he gets an NFL coaching job, I think that's going to be intriguing to watch. And this is Baylor's biggest game in the last 15, 20 years, to say the least. So they're going to be super hyped for that game. I'll make a case for Florida, Virginia, though. I know people like, you got to take Virginia, and yes, it's the ACC tie, and you kind of have to, even though Notre Dame is 15th in the college football poll. But at the same time, I'm excited, Donovan, to see Bryce Perkins against this Florida defense, because you look at Florida, and they're not really talked about. Kyle Trask did a great job at quarterback, filling in some injured Felipe Franks, and Florida's only losses are to LSU and to Georgia. So they really get overlooked in the grand scheme of things, and Florida could make a nice case going into next year if they dominate Virginia, and in Virginia's case, if they get a win over Florida, that's a huge win for Bronco Mendenhall's program.
Yeah, people don't realize. I look at the media or fans, maybe fans, like talking online about these buildings, they really do. The preseason polls mean a lot. I mean, if you haven't noticed, obviously you have, you're a good college football fan, you work in media, but a lot of these people don't know. I mean, that kind of makes up that whole extra 20% of the season where you start. So, yeah, for Florida being 15 and winning the rest of the game, having a strong end of the season would be huge for them coming back next year. They're really team that. Obviously, quarterback is something that they played for graduating, training stuff, for their training transferring. But the more Jones will probably, started, they'll get a grad transfer. But these games are Bronco Mendenhall against the program. If they were to upset Florida, they don't give them a chance. They don't have that to rally around. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this team is all big. Even, like I said, you have the Iowa, for instance, example, that team is big, for Florida and for Iowa going into next year. They play really well on bowl games, too. So it'll be interesting to see who wins these games and who comes back, who's retained, what players go into the draft, come back. So the preseason polls matter. I know they don't matter much anymore because of the college football playoff, but I think they still do. Because that helps out, when you're looking at the rankings early in the season.
And we actually have some really good non-New Year's Six bowl games. You got Michigan, Alabama, Harbaugh versus Saban, Citrus Bowl. You mentioned USC, Iowa, which is a good game in the Holiday Bowl. Do you have a favorite bowl or two besides the big ones that you're looking forward to watching?
Yeah, I mentioned one. The UFC Iowa for sure. That game, obviously, Clay Holtman, coming back is, controversial to say the least. And they're in San Diego, so they're, not too far from home. So Iowa, I guess, a very veteran team with a lot of seniors. Um, Nate Stanley, interesting quarterback. I do like him. He's very sporadic at times, but I do like him as a quarterback. All their defense, all of the line plays great as always for Iowa. And Keaton Slovis is balling out, man. And Michael Pittman said he's playing in this game, which is big. So a lot of people thought he'd be good out. I mean, he's nominated for the Blundercroft tomorrow night, and he's going to be a top 50 pick, I'm sure, in the draft, probably 2 or 3 or 4, somewhere around there. I think Thomas Shanahan. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good game. The Alabama Michigan is huge. I mean, I want to see the plays in that game because I know a lot of people say Alabama might have to that fit. They're only going to get pissed, though, man. And they want to come back, and I think it's not how they want to end, their careers. They want to go out with a big win. So they want that game at Auburn. They want to win. So Michigan is big for Shake Patterson is big for him. This is a chance for him to move up in the draft. I think he played pretty well down the stretch last year for a game of the season. So, yeah, those are two, I guess, right there. I'm trying to take some Minnesota playing. I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll be out. I forgot who Minnesota's playing, but I always like to see Minnesota. Do you have some Minnesota playing?
Minnesota is playing Auburn in the Outback Bowl, so I'm only
That
looking
one.
forward to that to see which team is going to be the Bloomin' Onion if they win.
Yeah, exactly. I won't assume anything about it. But yeah, I cannot think of who they're playing. So I thank you for that. But yeah, I mean, Bo Nick will need his maturation process. They just hired Chad Morris, the offensive coordinator. He will be coaching this game, but still, I want to see what they look like for him next year. And then Minnesota's a fun team. And they, Casey O'Brien is getting a Business Spirit Award tomorrow, and it's a big story for the sort of season, and just Minnesota in general. So just in the story, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited for all these ball games, and I'm like a nerd, like I'm not watching all these games, so I'm probably try to watch as many as I can. By the way, Washington Boys is going to be fun just to choose his last name as a coach and playing an old team, an old friend Brian Harshman for the Boise State. So that'll be fun, and then Jimmy Lake will take over from there. So that'll be good with you.
I was going to mention that as one of my two, just because for Boise State, this is a big game because if they beat Washington, yes, Washington's an average Pac-12 team this year. They beat Jacob Eason. That's big going into next year because next year they get Florida State on the blue turf. This is kind of those, if they were to win, that could propel them into that high preseason ranking in 2020, which could help them, A, get in the group of 5, and B, maybe put them even in an outside playoff conversation, especially with all the quarterbacks they used this year. So that's a huge opportunity for Boise State. And my other one, people going to be watching the Cotton Bowl. I know you like the Cotton Bowl, Donovan. That one on ABC at the same time, Ian Book and Notre Dame against Brock Purdy, Matt Campbell, and Iowa State. That's an interesting one because if Matt Campbell beats Notre Dame and enhances his head coaching resume, this is a big opportunity for Iowa State.
It is, and we've lost a few more games than they brought on to this year, of course, but they've looked good, especially about 30. I'm a huge fan of about 30 and their offense. I would say I haven't had an offense that wasn't a lot. I mean, Allen was on a few years ago, but just the balance of the offense. I mean, they did stuff too, but the balance of the offense, they can really swing it around 30 again. So it's really big for them. And then, yeah, I mean, another senior, 17 Notre Dame, there are a lot of veterans on that team, and both one of them. So I can't wait to see what they look like. I think they're going to really get the ball club. They lost a couple of heartbreakers, but they're going to really get the ball club. They won some close games too. So, you really thought this should be the year's fifth game. I know a lot of the fans are pissed. They don't care, I guess, about this game, but they should. Because, again, the point of going on the field. You know what I mean? So I would have no players in the field don't care about this game. I mean, they care. I mean, if you're playing it, you care. Ian Book cares. Brian Kelly cares, you know what I mean? So they'll go out to Chase Claypool. I can't wait to see him, but he's one of the top this year. He's draft coming up, so yeah, that's a good one. That's a good call right there. Sleeper game.
Last question for you. Your
talking about the college football awards, which will be out on Thursday night. You got the Heisman on Saturday. Joe Burrow is going to win the award most likely. You've got Burrow, Chase Young, Justin Fields, and Jalen Hurts in New York. Would you, if you had a vote, would you pick Joe Burrow? And it's tough with four because I can make a case that Donovan should be in New York as well, and Jonathan Taylor. What would your Heisman ballot look like?
My Heisman ballot would have been the same four, except I would have had J.K. Donovan in there this year. Or Jonathan Taylor, like you said, one of the two. It doesn't matter. Jonathan Taylor would be more like a lifetime achievement thing. Not lifetime, but career achievement. And J.K. Dobbins, another good career, but just for this year, I think he's the heart and soul of the team. For them, offense. So one of those two. Sheila Hubbard, who could have made K-Tran, too. He's Derek Brown and all of it, what he did for that defense. Any other year would have been decent. I think Merrick thought it was defense for the year. Obviously, Chase is going to win that, but Derek Brown was amazing. Herbert kind of fell off of that season, but we probably going to be on the ballot or something to have a look at that. And, yeah, man, Joe Burrow's going to win. I would look to win. From the start of the season to the end, it's been the best player in college football. I think draft-wise, that Chase Young, I know I said Chase Young was the best on this for the draft. He's probably going to be number one. But Joe Burrow is the best player in college football from start to finish to me.
Yeah, I would agree, but I also wouldn't have a problem if some voters gave Chase Young a first place vote, and he is that good. I agree with you. He's the best player in college football. If the Bengals aren't picking number one, Chase Young is probably the number one pick. It's just that happens the Bengals need a quarterback, and it's probably going to be Burrow barring something crazy. So it doesn't really surprise me there, but should be a fun ceremony Saturday night. Like I mentioned before, let you go, Donovan. You're at the award show Thursday. Tell us about what you're doing down there and how the listeners can follow you on Twitter, and anything you want to promote, feel free to do so.
Yeah, man. This is my fourth year in a row at the College Football Hall of Fame. They held the Holdo Award show at the College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta. I think it's my fourth year there in a row. All the top names in college football, all the top coaches, all four of the college football playoff coaches will be there. Herschel Walker's in the Lifetime Achievement Award. Herschel's going to be presenting the Hall of Fame class. They have already inducted us as a class, but just inducting their little statues or whatever, and not actual Hall of Fame today. It's in New York, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to interviewing Joe Burrow and Chase Young, Derek Brown, all the time that Ricky Keeler, Jonathan Taylor will be there, everybody. So, I'm very, very excited and honored to be on the show, for one, talk about this, and two, be at the award show again. The award show will be on ESPN tomorrow at 8 o'clock. The media sessions today, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports. Again, that's at Don James Sports. I will have so much stuff I'm sure today, like I'm going live at some point. I don't really know when, but probably about 5:30, I guess, today, so we can find everything on my Twitter page. And, check out the show on Monday night. We're going to have a crazy show on Monday night, just to wrap it up all the awards stuff and talking about the FCS playoffs, probably a little bit too, like some draft. We're doing like a mock draft for the NFL too, so that'll be fun. Talking about maybe a little fantasy playoffs wrapping up. So, it's going to be a good show Monday night, and that's obviously on Full Press Coverage, College Radio. There you go.
Be sure to catch Full Press College Radio with Donovan. A lot of football talk. Army-Navy even this weekend, too. That's always a fun game as well, just a fun event. That's on my bucket list. I got to get to an Army-Navy game eventually, but that should be a lot of fun. So check out Donovan's show. Follow all his coverage of the awards. Donovan, thanks again for joining us. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for the time.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And our special thanks to Donovan James from Full Press Coverage College Radio for joining us. Should be an exciting time down at the College Football Awards Show, which is going on right now as we speak if you're listening to us live. Of course, you got Army-Navy this week, as I mentioned, which is on my sports bucket list. And I think is a fantastic event just to go to for sports and in general. And we thank those servicemen and women who are playing in this game and eventually are going to serve our country. It's really a fun thing to watch. And it's different from most football games you watch, but in a good thing. So when you take a look at the NFL this week, of course, we got Week 15, 3 weeks left in the regular season. The Braves aren't as great as last week, but there are still some really important games that could determine seeding, could determine who wins some divisions. In the case of the matchup in Tennessee, we're going to get into, of course, what happened in Cincinnati with the Do Your Job documentary. I'm going to get into my thoughts on that. I'm a Patriot fan, as you guys all know. I have my thoughts on it. I've waited for this show. I've not really posted them on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Rickinator555. So we're going to get into that right now. And let's start in Baltimore. As we do our Week 15 word association, remember, I throw out a matchup. I give the first word or phrase that pops in my head on this game. Feel free to tweet your word or phrase for your favorite team's matchup at Rickinator555, either for this week or for next week for Week 16. We're going to start with the 5-8 Jets against the 11-2 Ravens. Lamar Jackson is playing in tonight's game, had the quad issue this week. To me, this is domination is the word, and a short week for the Jets, who had a really good week against the Dolphins. They got the pass interference call, led to the game-winning field goal. Their offense didn't play great, but they found a way to win. To me, this is still all Ravens. I think even if Lamar Jackson sat out this game, the Ravens would win, because I think RG3 at least has a grasp of the offense. But even with Lamar banged up, Mark Andrews banged up, the Ravens defense should be enough against the Jets on a short week, traveling on the road. This is a tough one for me to see the Ravens lose, or even for the Jets to keep this game close. Maybe it's close for a half, but I think Baltimore finds a way to blow them out in the end. We go to the Sunday games. Let's start in Washington. 6-7 Eagles, 3-10 Redskins. Eagles right now tied with the Cowboys in the division with 3 to play. They've got Dallas this week, or next week, excuse me. And my word for this one is trap game. I mean, the Eagles have played down to their competition. They lost in Miami. They were down 17-3 to the Giants, but found a way to win despite only having one healthy wide receiver. And now they're out Alshon Jeffrey for the year. But still, this is a trap game. Washington has played better the last few weeks. They hung in there with Green Bay for a little bit. I'm not saying the Redskins will win this game. I don't think that at all, especially now with Darius Geis out. They still have Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson. But Philly, to me, they got to start playing above their competition level. Especially if you want to beat Dallas next week, you're going to have to start playing against these bad teams and dominating them. Maybe there's more Miles Sanders this week. Maybe to counteract and not having as much passing weapons for Carson Wentz. But the Eagles, I think, should be fine in this game. The big one in Nashville. 8-5 Texans, 8-5 Titans. Both teams tied in the AFC South. If the division ended in a tie, right now you look at the simulations, I think Houston would have the tiebreaker, regardless of these teams finishing. Let's say they both go 10-6. Well, actually, I don't think they both can go 10-6. Yeah, actually they could. They both can go 10-6. And my word for this one is ground attack. I think if you're Tennessee, the formula stays the same. You got to get the ball to Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry has a great game on the ground, it helps create downfield plays for Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown, we saw last week. Same with Corey Davis, And I think the Titans, to me, are playing well at the right time. If they get in the playoffs, they're sneaky good. And the Texans, I wasn't surprised. I mean, we had Brandon Ray on last week. He predicted Denver. I didn't think Denver would win that game, but for the Texans to lay as big an egg as they did, you're talking about a team that really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know really how serious the contenders they are, because they beat New England and they beat Kansas City, but they're capable of losing like that. And I still can't trust Bill O'Brien and the Texans in a big spot. So if I had to make a pick, I would go with Tennessee. I just think they're playing so well right now. They got 2 of their final 3 games at home. I think the Titans are going to find a way to win this division. Even though they might have to sweep Houston to do it, I just trust Mike Rabel and the Titans more. To New York, 3-10 Dolphins, 2-11 Giants. This is an ugly football game to say the least. So my word is farewell tour. Eli Manning possibly could get the start here. Pat Shurmur hasn't given any word of it between Daniel Jones, who's battling the ankle injury, or Eli Manning. But I think if you're the Giants, just play Eli Manning. Give him that last start at home. Give him that chance for the fans to give him a standing ovation. You're not playing for anything. It's probably more beneficial for you to lose, so you get the number 2 pick, and you pick Chase Young. Even though Pat Shurmur could be fired, Dave Gettleman has a chance maybe to lose his job. The Dolphins are playing well, but maybe no Devontae Parker with a concussion. Maybe no Albert Wilson, who's also in the protocol. So the Dolphins are down a couple wide receivers. They played hard every week, had a chance to win. Jason Sanders kicked 7 field goals last week, but I actually think the Giants could win this football game. To Kansas City, 9-4 Chiefs hosting the 5-8 Broncos, and my word for this one is home cooking for the Chiefs. They're back in Arrowhead. Pat Mahomes for the first half against New England played well. They struggled offensively in the second half, but their defense did well against New England. We can talk about the blown calls by the referees all you want, but in the end, the Chiefs are the better football team. They're back home. Mahomes is healthier. I think this is the game they should roll. Give Drew Lock credit. He's played well his first 2 games, but I think in Arrowhead, it's going to be the toughest place he's played as a professional. It is only his 3rd start. I think the Chiefs are in the right frame of mind right now. If the Ravens slip up twice, which I don't think they are, the Chiefs are in good position, but they're going to hope Buffalo beats New England next Saturday because the Chiefs still have a chance at the 2 seed. To Green Bay, 10-3 Packers hosting the 7-6 Bears. Bears still the outside shot at the playoffs. Packers would have the bye if the season ended today in the NFC. And my word for this one is, I'm looking at this game for the Packers. I think this is dominating Devontae for this one. I think the Packers are going to get more Devontae Adams involved in this game. Aaron Rodgers has historically played well against the Bears. I like the way Mitchell Trubisky has played the last couple weeks. But in the end, the Packers, even though they had their struggles with the Redskins, this is a game I think Aaron Rodgers, he always finds a way to beat the Bears at home. I don't see this being any different. It's going to be the Packers in this game. To Detroit, 6-7 Bucks against the 3-9-1 Lions. My word for this one is going to Godwin because Mike Evans is out with a hamstring injury. He might miss the rest of the season. Jameis Winston, he's going to play in this game. So you got to think this is a lot of Chris Godwin. And this is going to be a fun matchup with Chris Godwin against Darius Slay, who's the Lions' top cover corner, one of the better cover corners in the league. Lions just aren't playing well on offense right now. It makes sense. They're starting David Blau at quarterback. So this is when Tampa should win. They had a shootout win over Indy last week. I think they're going to have to do the same thing this week. But this would get the Bucks back to 7-7, and at least would try to get them a good end to their season, if you will. To Carolina, 10-3 Seahawks at the 5-8 Panthers. My word for this one is bounce back. That was ugly the way Seattle played on Sunday, and they need this one. The division's on the line. San Francisco now with the 1-game lead. Of course, Seattle, if they win out, would win the division anyway. But to play like that on the road against the Rams, that was surprising. And now without Rashad Penny, they're going to need a lot more Chris Carson on the ground. But I still think they should beat Carolina. The Panthers were awful in Atlanta. They're really playing out the string. They don't have a head coach right now. Perry Fuel's the interim, but he's not going to be the coach next year. This was when Seattle should dominate. To Cincinnati, 10-3 Patriots, 1-12 Bengals. And my word for the Patriots is back to basics. Look, this is where the Patriots have to focus on running the football. They have to be able to at least give Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry more opportunities in the passing game. Julian Edelman's been getting practices off because he's been battling injuries this year. This is one where the Patriots offense just has to get back to basics. Because right now this offense is not good enough to win a championship. Again, we could talk about the blown calls all you want from last week, but it just shows the Patriots need those breaks to be decent on offense. They're terrible on offense right now. And it's not Tom Brady's fault. Tom Brady's done a decent job this year. Yes, he's in decline, but he's not awful. And to put in perspective, I want to talk about this whole situation with the Bengals this week. Of course, we all know by now the Patriots had somebody in the press box had the camera on the Bengals sideline of their game against the Browns last week. The Bengals really think something was going on. Zach Taylor doesn't comment on the situation. The Bengals head coach, Mike Brown, at the owners' meetings did not comment on this either. The Patriots, of course, Bill Belichick has said this is not a part of our football operations. We had no part in this. And look, I think if the Patriots are part of this, they should be punished. If there's a nefarious attempt here to gain a competitive edge, they should be punished. Raj Goodell saying that their track record does play a part in it, which makes me think, even if there's something, if it's innocuous, the Patriots are going to get a heavier punishment than most would because of who they are. That's the position they put themselves in. The Patriots have basically admitted they've made a mistake. I personally believe they've made a mistake. But I want to address something real quick, and we'll get into the 4 o'clock matchups in a second. For those media members that have made the Do Your Job documentary sound like a sham, or made them sound like a cover-up to cheating, shame on you. Because you're not doing your research. The Do Your Job documentaries, as a Patriot fan, to me, are great because they profile the people in the organization that don't get enough love, that do enough for the team, like the equipment manager, the scouts, the people in the front office. They look at different jobs and they take you in a day of the life of those people that we don't get to hear about or we don't get to see on a daily basis. All teams should do that because it gives credit to everybody that helps behind the scenes. So to make it seem like that they just create these things out of thin air or that they're scheming just by doing this, come on, people. I get it. You're going to either believe the Patriots or not believe the Patriots. There's no middle. I understand that. You're going to enhance this as cheating, or you're going to say the Patriots are being treated differently than everybody else. I totally get that. But to really make a mockery of the Do Your Job documentaries, I mean, where have we gone if we're doing that now? So, to me, that was so ridiculous. I was watching some shows this week, and I was so surprised that people would go to that level. I really was, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised. Still, I think New England should roll in this game. Their defense will be fine. Andy Dalton will throw a couple turnovers. Patriots should win out, I think, although that Buffalo game is a little scary in retrospect. To LA, 9-4 Vikings, 5-8 Chargers in the 4 o'clock window. And my word for this one is trying Adam Thielen. Could see Adam Thielen back this week as a possibility. Vikings need this win. They host the Packers next week. Chargers dominated against the Jaguars last week. So at least they got some progress. But even though this is a home game basically for the Vikings, their fans I'm sure will travel. If they can get Adam Thielen back this week, kind of get him going again before that Packer matchup, that's huge. But Minnesota should be fine and get their 10th win. To Oakland, 4-9 Jaguars, 6-7 Raiders, and what is likely going to be the last game ever in Oakland. Raiders have to go to LA and go to Denver to end the season, so this is their last home game. And my word is, again, farewell. I'm going to go farewell party again here for the Raiders. I think this is one where the crowd's going to be into it. I would be shocked if Jacksonville won this football game. If I'm in an eliminator pool in Week 15, I'm picking the Raiders if I haven't already. Because I think this is one, even if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, where the Raiders just find that second gear, kind of like what you saw Week 1 against the Broncos in that last Monday night game there. The last home game there is going to be emotional, I think, for Raiders fans. Emotional for the team. Emotional for John Gruden as the head coach. I think Oakland rolls in this game. To Arizona, 6-7 Browns, 3-9-1 Cardinals. And my word for this one is offense, because I think you're going to get a lot of offense in this game. Kyler Murray, you want to see him bounce back. He had 3 picks against the Steelers in a game that Arizona could have won. But the Browns' defense isn't very good. And I think you look at Baker Mayfield, the Cardinals' defense struggles to defend the pass. I think you're going to see a lot of points in this game. And it wouldn't surprise me, though, if Arizona won. I don't trust Cleveland at all. But, again, the Cardinals have let me down so much. They've been awful over the last 5-6 weeks. This one's intriguing, but from a different level. To San Francisco, 4-9 Falcons, 11-2 49ers, and my word for this one is ground attack. Kyle Shanahan is loving using these running backs. Raheem Mostert was fantastic against the Saints. I was very impressed with how Jimmy Garoppolo played against the New Orleans Saints. They were able to win in a shootout. They were more creative. They had more trick plays than Sean Payton has, which is hard to say. This is going to be a tough one for Kyle Shanahan. Just don't go up 28-3 if you're Kyle Shanahan against the team you used to be the offensive coordinator for. But with Matt Ryan now without Calvin Ridley, this Niners defense, despite giving up over 40 points against the Saints, is really good. I think San Francisco wins, keeps pace, and has the division lead with 2 games to play. To Dallas, 8-5 Rams, 6-7 Cowboys. Huge game for both teams. And my word for this one, I'm going to go with coming to Cooper. Because I think for Dak Prescott, you saw it against the Bears 10 days ago. They need Amari Cooper to get going. If Amari Cooper doesn't have a big game, Dallas' offense is terrible. That's why I would argue Dallas should pay Cooper before they pay Dak Prescott. Because Dak is a different quarterback when Amari Cooper is either not in the lineup or is not healthy. It's a big matchup with Cooper, likely against Jalen Ramsey this week. The Rams are starting to find things offensively the last couple of weeks. They're only a game behind the Vikings. They still have games with San Francisco and Arizona to end the season. if the Vikings slip up one time, the Rams are in good position. But the Rams also are a different team away from LA. This is a really fun football game and one both teams desperately need. Dallas has a new kicker as well, so this should be a fun game to watch. The Sunday Night Football, 9-4 Bills, 8-5 Steelers in the giant catch-up ball known as Heinz Field. The defense is the word for me because I don't see the winner of this game score more than 20 points. Both defenses are really good. Devlin Hodges does get James Conner back, does get Juju Smith-Schuster back. So the Steelers have all their weapons in place. But Buffalo, to me right now, if you don't believe in this team, I don't know what to tell you. They're really good. Their defense is good. Josh Allen's making plays. I think they had a good showing against the Ravens last week, even though they didn't win the football game. So I think, again, defense is the key for both of these teams. It's going to be low scoring, a physical football game. And it's tough to win in Pittsburgh, but the Bills, with a really good chance still at the division, if they can win out and New England gets a loss somewhere. So Buffalo's got an opportunity here. Monday Night Football, 10-3 Saints, 6-7 Colts. Colts are reeling right now. To me, for the Saints, this is a Breeze bash. Drew Brees is going to have a great game here against this Colt defense. Has struggled against Jameis Winston. Indy's kind of been struggling the last few weeks, as I mentioned. I think the Saints win big here. So that's your word association for Week 15. Again, a lot of exciting games, a lot of good matchups for playoff purposes. And we'll get into, of course, Week 16. Next week, you'll see some Saturday games, which is always fun. And we'll get into that next week as well, as I mentioned. Finally, I want to talk about the Knicks. Of course, we got to get to this NBA. David Fizdale fired since we last did the show. No surprise. We talked about it when we had Gerald Brown on a couple weeks ago. We're hoping we'll get Gerald back on again real soon to talk more NBA. And to me, it's just more dysfunction for the Knicks. I mean, it's not all David Fizdale's fault. Yes, he could have did things better as head coach, but he had no talent. Their plan B has not worked. The Knicks are 5-20. They did beat Golden State on Wednesday, but Golden State's terrible. The Knicks should beat Golden State, but they're also probably the second worst, if not the worst team in the league. Mike Miller, who's not the former player, the G League coach is the head coach now, and hopefully he does some good things. Hopefully the Knicks can at least get respectable. They'll eventually trade Marcus Morris, I think. But it's up to Steve Mills and Scott Perry to fix this. If they don't fix it, then James Dolan's got to act and bring in a new front office to go with a new coach. Personally, I think the best fit for this job is Becky Hammon, who used to play for the Liberty. She's done a great job under Greg Popovich as an assistant coach. She knows the Garden. She's familiar with everything. Now, I think you'd have to give her a long-term contract, which I think you should, but I don't think maybe Becky Hammon would want to go into that dysfunctional environment. It's going to be tough for the Knicks to get a credible head coach. It really is, and it's their own fault. This is not a quick fix. They're not going to get free agents to come here. The whole situation around the Knicks is a mess right now. So this is going to be a long-term rebuild job, and it's going to get ugly quick even if it's not reached rock bottom yet, which I think it's getting close to. It's going to get there soon. My special thanks again to Donovan James from Full Press Coverage College Radio for joining me to talk college football. We talked to a hot stove today. So, of course, not everything is done just yet. Yes, the top 3 free agents are off the board, but you never know what else can happen. There could be some trades. Plenty of time in the offseason, but it's good to see the top free agents getting signed at the winter meetings in San Diego. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about the NFL. Week 16 Word Association is next week. We'll have a guest on either talk about NFL and play Word Association with us. We'll talk a little NBA, we'll college football. Maybe we'll do some hockey, who knows. But of course, college basketball, you had Louisville lose this week. You've had Michigan lose this week. You've had Maryland lose this week. 3 top 5 teams have gone down, and just bigger emphasis that it's wide open in college basketball this season. Again, follow me on Twitter at Rickinator555. Follow us on Twitter at Full Press Radio, at FP Coverage. We have NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, soccer, wrestling. We got everything here at Full Press Coverage. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And continue to listen to Full Press Radio for your nightly podcast as well. So from all of us here, Kicking It with Keeler, thanks for kicking it with me, Ricky Keeler. And I'll see you next week for episode 7 of the show. Until then,
Well,
enjoy your
hello
weekend,
out there, all the Full Press Radio Network listeners. This is Loudbeard from Scout Team Radio reminding you that we are now live Monday through Friday on Full Press Radio. Make sure you give us a listen, and God bless America.
And welcome back, everybody, to an all-new episode of Kicking It with Keeler, episode 6 of Kicking It with Keeler. Thanks